Knightmare, Brown Bear, ranked fighters might care? I don't know, I mean that's my best, but we have a fight coming up this weekend at heavyweight between Brown Bear Devin Clark and Knightmare William Knight. Matt, for William Knight, he weighed in at heavyweight his last time out, but they let him fight at light heavyweight anyways. Took on Maxim Grecian a month and 3 weeks ago, we'll call it. For William Knight, he comes in at 218 pounds. He was taking some of that mass gainer. He was getting yoked. And now Devin Clark's got to pick up some of the secret sauce. And he's got to get ready to move up and make this big jump up to heavyweight. And really, when you do look at this one for William Knight, you look at some of the fights that he's had in the past. I know the fight against Tafon Chukwe, we're above 205. That much is true. You look at some of the other ones. I mean, really early on in his career, light heavyweight, bounced around a little bit. He took on Herdem Alekbek over on Contender Series. That one was at light heavyweight. And then when we're taking on Tafon Chukwe, the old catchweight, the old super, what is it called? Cruiserweight is what it's called, at 225. Since then, he went on a 3-fight win streak, lost to Da Unjung, couple of wins, one over Fabio Charant, one over Alonzo Menefield that was very close. And then he ends up in that spot against Max Grecian. But Matt, the big question for William Knight this weekend would have been, if this was at 205, how's he going to make the weight? But now that it's at 265, where do you expect him to weigh in at?
Also, how is he going to make the weight? It is interesting because for William Knight, we know that, okay, he must walk around at least north of 220. We can all agree on that. So let's assume he at least tried to cut a little bit of weight. At least walked into a sauna and did anything. Like, I don't know if you've ever been in a sauna before, but you sweat a lot really quick, and you can lose a couple of pounds pretty fast. So I'm assuming William Knight weighs, like, well into 230. I really do expect him to weigh, I'm going to say, this will be like a side fight night prediction. I'm going to say between 235 and 238. I'll say in that range. I really do think he's going to be one of the heavier guys, because if you look at other fighters like Alir Latifi, Jean Vellante, former light heavyweights, they themselves have weighed in around that range before. And I do think William Knight, although height-wise he is not going to look like a heavyweight whatsoever, I know we bring this up all the time, please go on his Instagram. All he does is strength and conditioning to the nth degree. Like, it's kind of ridiculous the types of gains this guy's getting in the gym. I saw a video go all over Twitter and Instagram of, like, not even MMA content, just being like, unranked MMA fighter can bench press 490 pounds. And I'm like, hey, that's William Knight. I know who that is, not just some unranked guy to me. But that really is... You hate to say, like, oh, strength and conditioning is his style, but when you look at how he fights in MMA, it's a lot of single shots, it's a lot of really hoping and relying on his own knockout power, and it's a fighter who... He is very basic in the way he goes about things, but I'll at least give him a little bit of credit with this. When you have as much power as William Knight does, you don't have to be a fighter like Yair Rodriguez. You don't need to set things up for a 720 head kick. A 1-2 combo can really take you far when you do have the power of someone like Knight, but the question is, can that take you far at the UFC level? And even with Devin Clark, he is not a world beater by any means, but he's been in there with a lot of top level fighters. Whether he's beat them or lost to him, he does at least have the experience edge in this matchup.
The thing is, he hasn't beaten any of those top level
but
fighters.
I do think being in there does help you out to a certain degree. That is always experience that you are going to take going forward.
So if you look at it for Devin Clark, he comes in off of RFA 37. Dana White's looking for a fight season 1 where they still had Nick the Tooth and Matt Serra. Those guys didn't get along from what they say, allegedly. But if you do look at it, he gets knocked out by Alex Nicholson. He beats Josh Stansbury and Jake Collier, loses to Jan Blachowicz, beats Mike Rodriguez by decision, loses to Alexander Rakic,
dropped him though.
Darko Stuzic, loses to Ryan Spann, beats Saquon Townsend, beats Alonzo Menefield, loses to Anthony Smith in a main event, a 3-rounder, and then, it was a 5-rounder, and then he loses to Iwan Kutsalaba his last time out there, a co-main event of a fight night, and he got completely out-wrestled by Iwan Kutsalaba, which was a little bit of a surprise, because if you look at the way that Devin Clark fights, he is a 2-time JUCO All-American at 184 pounds. He was a 2009 national champion, and that's how he fights. I fight national champion wrestling. That should be the slogan for Devin Clark. He should get that tattooed instead of the deer antlers on his chest, because that is his style, and he doesn't necessarily... Like, we haven't seen a giant progression since he's joined the UFC in his striking. He's been a long-time Jackson Wink guy. If you go over on his Instagram, he's been training quite a bit at Elevation Fight Team. You know them for Neil Magny, but Curtis Blades adjacent. You've got Alistair Overeem popping in as well. So maybe you see some gains in Devin Clark's game. But for William Knight, still out of Thornton Martial Arts, I seem to be the one that talks about the strength and conditioning, because there are no videos on his Instagram, or very, very few, of him hitting the pads, of him doing much in terms of his MMA. Now, when it does come to William Knight's MMA game, that's where it's going to be, we're going to be butting heads, because in certain fights, William Knight, very takedown heavy, lots of top pressure. He can work from side control. He can put his body weight on top of you from half guard to where you can't force yourself up, and then he's able to work some of that ground and pound. Or he fights Daun Jung, and Daun Jung completely out-wrestles him. And Daun Jung, if you don't know, is a very, very fun boxer to watch. So that was crazy to see that fight go the way that it went. Since then, he was able to get the wins over Sharon, the win over Alonzo Menefield, which was, again, very, very close. And then the fight against Max Grecian that didn't go his way, but he also missed weight by 12 pounds.
Isn't it interesting, though, how you look at Devin Clark's last loss is Iwan Kutalaba? I would say a much better version of William Knight, but there's some similarities there. William Knight's last loss to Maxim Grecian. Maybe not a carbon copy of Devin Clark, but a guy who will go out there, box his way into range, go for the takedown. I just think it's interesting that both guys' previous opponent, I do think will get them at least a little bit prepared for their next one. But this is what I go back to, and I'm glad you brought up the Daun Jung fight. I really do think Devin Clark watched that fight and thought, great, I can fight exactly like that. Because William Knight, he does have good offensive wrestling, but I do think a lot of that just comes down to how physically strong he is and his level of athleticism. I don't think he can go out there and wrestle for wrestling's sake with someone like Devin Clark, who does tend to tire as his fights go on. He just has a decent work rate, but it will start to tail off. I still think he has the better cardio than William Knight does in this fight, and for Devin Clark, do I worry about him eating a big shot and losing his, top, 4 or 5 teeth? That was gross, that injury. Maybe a little bit, but I do think he is the more well-rounded guy in this fight. And this is the last thing I'll say. Devin Clark has underrated leg kicks. They leave his head very wide open when he throws them because he doesn't leave his hands up. But they are a good offensive tool that he sometimes employs.
William Knight doesn't check him either.
Exactly. So I do think that's something that if Clark has success with early, I would definitely expect momentum to continue to shift his side. And he did hurt Alexander Rakic. I feel like I need to bring this up every single time we talk about Devin Clark. But Rakic has looked, maybe not unbeatable, but he's not a guy who gets hit clean very often. He normally gets in and gets out relatively unscathed, and although he was able to knock out Devin Clark, I thought Clark looked pretty good even though he got knocked out in the first round.
So we're Sunday, April 10th as we film this. On March 31st, Nolan Kings with MMA Junkie sent the tweet out to say that this fight was announced, so it is short notice. It is at heavyweight, mass gainer, whatever you can get into you, all those legal supplements. You got to get up there for something. I mean, you can weigh wherever you want, I guess. But when I do look at this one, Matt, it is a tricky one. The odds get Devin Clark open to -150s, -170. William Knight open to +130s, +143. If we have a look at the Topology votes, they will be a surprise to me because honestly, I have no idea even where to set the bar.
Can I set them then?
Go for it.
I'm going to say Devin Clark 60%.
Yeah, I'm going to say over. I was going to say 65, and we'll have a look. Ooh, we're both wrong. 410 total votes, 65% Knight, 74% by knockout. For the 35% that have Clark, 89% by decision. I think if Devin Clark wins, he'll most likely win by decision as well. And for William Knight, definitely has that knockout ability. He has some experience up here in the higher weight class, I guess I would say. So it'll be interesting to see how he makes out. He took that fight on really short notice, though. His last time out against Max Grecian, he replaced Short Fuse, Artesian Well specialist Ed Herman. So an interesting one there for William Knight. Go read about that one if you want. For me, though, I do have Devin Clark. I think the takedowns are going to be important. William Knight, not big on checking the leg kick. Could he knock out Devin Clark? 110%. These are unranked heavyweights. It's just, if I don't pick Devin Clark, his dad might wake me up in the middle of the night screaming in my face like he screams at Devin Clark when he's in the octagon. That man gets so fired up. Devin Clark's dad. Wow.
Okay, is it on an Eddie Alvarez's wife level, or is it more like Arnold Allen's father, more of a supportive type of a role?
It's the loudest yells you've ever heard.
I agree with your Devin Clark prediction, though. Here's the thing. If William Knight wins, I couldn't agree more. It's going to be one of these hellacious. He doesn't really throw overhands. This is what I will say. He does throw this weird shovel hook for being a shorter guy.
He dips back and throws it.
It does come from a weird angle. Not really a traditional hook, not really an uppercut. It comes from one of those submarine angles, to throw a baseball term. Darren O'Day. Probably my favorite submarine pitcher coming out of the bullpen. Don't know why his name came to mind. But that is the technique that Knight has. And if he is able to back Devin Clark up against the cage, get him to be an upright fighter, that's when one of those big hooks could land. But I do think Clark is the much more skilled fighter in this matchup. And I do think his wrestling will be the X factor.
We could be wrong on this one. We'll find out on Saturday. Both of us going with Devin Clark to get the win. You let us know down below in the comments section who you have. Is it William Knight? Is it the Brown Bear, Devin Clark? And we have some big time fights left on this card that you're not going to want to miss. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.